Welcome back to Members Only. I would hate to break this to you, but it needs to be discussed. What I'm about to say is going to leave you shocked. You may already know this, but it may hit a little bit of cognitive dissonance that you have right now internally. Because at the end of the day, they need you broke and in the dark. And I want to talk about why. There's a reason confusion is rising. There's a reason that debt is being normalized. And there's a reason most people live one emergency away from their own total collapse. This system does not function on abundance. It functions on managed scarcity. And it's engineered, it's not accidental. They need this scarcity, especially in the States, especially in Western civilizations, for you to feed into their fear system. And it's not the fear that they tell you, oh, be afraid of traveling Africa, be afraid of going to the Middle East, be afraid of what China could do to you. That's not the type of fear I'm talking about. That's what you absolutely should not be afraid of. It should be the total opposite. Instead, the real fear is that mentally they keep you caged in this box in the Western civilization of America, Great Britain, Spain, France, Germany. They keep you settled there thinking this is the only great place on earth. Everywhere else is a jungle. And the modern world, fortunately for them, does not require chains. They don't need chains to chain you up anymore. It requires conditioning, psychological conditioning. And the first illusion that must be preserved is this, that poverty is natural, that struggle is holy, that survival is a virtue. I don't remember reading that anywhere in the scriptures. But the Bible never taught these tenets that they and their white evangelical Christianity would like to spread on the masses. Now here's the first lie. God wants you broke. Nowhere in scripture does poverty represent righteousness. In fact, it's quite the opposite if you actually read the scriptures with understanding. Instead, you see that bondage equates to lack, deliverance equals abundance, and obedience directly comes with provision. Inheritance equals land, wealth, and security. In Psalm 16, chapter 5, verse 6, or I should say Psalms chapter 16, verses 5 through 6. Yahuwah is the portion of mine inheritance and my cup. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yes, I have a goodly inheritance. This is not a spiritualized symbolism. This is territorial, physical language, okay? Provisional language, where light reveals ownership and darkness erases identity. After all, why did they want to erase the identity of the chosen ones on the earth? A person who does not know their inheritance, doesn't know where it is, doesn't know the future of it, has not seen it in the spirit the way that Abraham had before he even was able to grab it, can be legally dispossessed without resistance. Because if you don't have the vision, you can't see what Yah is doing in your life, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get to the next level. And this is why the system requires you to stay broke. A broke population is easy to tax, easy to control, super easy to control. This is mind-blowing, and you may not even understand it until you exit America and you have your successful businesses and your successful investments and endeavors. It's so much easier to control someone who is in poverty, who is broke. This is why Yahusha said, I came to set the captives free. Like, you weren't supposed to just be in poverty forever. It's easier to threaten those people. It's easier to digitize, to discipline, monitor, to have ultra control. Debt is not just financial, it's behavioral. Once survival becomes your main concern, truth becomes optional. Because at the end of the day, if you're put up against a wall and you're given the choice to eat after your family has not eaten for, let's say, 48 hours, and they say eat, or I want you to be in this control system, eat or take this mark, eat or do this, you're going to be a little bit more likely to do what they want you to do versus if you had the freedom, the strategy, and the provision that you needed beforehand. This is why credit scores replaced character, digital wallets replaced cash, and algorithms replaced discernment. And then lastly, dependency replaced freedom and sovereignty. The debt system does not need to take your freedom. It simply finances it until it owns the entire situation. And this is where training, not education, came into play. To put out this propaganda to tell you what you don't need to do, what you do need to do, what's the norm, what's not the norm. Oh, look bad at the rich. Like, oh, if somebody makes over 200,000, 300,000, oh, you don't really need that. You don't need that. If somebody owns a business, you don't really have to own a business. You can just stay a W-2 worker. Although AI is replacing 50% of the workforce just this coming year in 2026. But most people, we're trained, again, to work for wages, not equity, to trust banks, not land, to chase value digitally, not tangibly, and to measure success by image, what it looks like, and not actual ownership of their business, of their time, of their family. And wealth is taught publicly. It's passed privately, which is why only a small minority ever are able to escape this cycle. And it's not necessarily because they were so smart or smarter than you, but they were taught a different cycle. They were probably educated differently at home, where some parents may say, you know, I just work too hard. I don't have time to talk to my children. The wealthy are like, oh no, we always have time to talk to our children because they're going to be the heirs of this wealth that we have. So they always have time to teach their children, despite what movies may make you think. Because if they're not raising their children properly, then they're not going to hold the family values. Wealthy people understand this. This isn't like a huge mind-blowing phenomenon. This is why you can always tell a wealthy mind from a poverty mind by how embedded they are into their children's life, even as adult children. A wealthy mind is always, always, always going to care about the next generation the way that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did, because they understand that their children are an inheritance. Psalms 127 literally says that. But the poverty mind is always going to look at children and their own lineage as an issue that needs to be exterminated, because they're buying this from Planned Parenthood. They're buying this from Western media. They're buying this from super hyper capitalization, which is why you have all of these single women that are now coming out. I don't need to be a mom, never want to be a mom. Now they have a study. Men do not want to be married. Men do not want to raise children. That is the total collapse of American society when you have that happen. And it was a study obviously done in America. Most studies are done in America, sometimes Germany or the UK as well. And then the artificial currency and synthetic wealth. This collapse is unlike any in history because the previous empires fell when they had gold, silver, coinage, physical paper. But this one is falling on synthetic evaluation, okay? And it's looking a little bit crazy. But you need to understand Psalms 144, which is Yah's definition of prosperity. I absolutely love this Psalms. It's a warfare psalm, and it's fantastic. It's a long one, but I just pulled verses 12 through 14. Psalms 144, verse 12 through 14, gives one of the clearest biblical definitions of national prosperity. That our sons may be as plants grown up in their youth, that our daughters may be as cornerstones, polished after the similitude of a palace, and that our garners may be full, affording all manner of store. That our sheep may bring forth thousands and 10,000s in our streets, that there be no breaking in, no going out, and no complaining in our streets. Notice what prosperity is not described as. It doesn't say prosperity is not having children, getting rid of your children, getting divorced, or anything of that nature. The picture that you're seeing here is of family nations that not only have enough, but they have a surplus. They don't have just enough. Like this idea of, oh, you only need just, no, they have a surplus. It says so that their savings, which is basically this word that they're using, their garners may be full, affording all manner of store. Their savings is increasing. Their sheep are bringing forth not 100, not 50, 10,000s and thousands and thousands. So there's no breaking in, no going out in their streets, and no complaining, okay? Wealth is family stability, food security, territorial safety. That's key, territorial safety. If you're in a territory where the society is collapsing or it's not safe, obviously you cannot have that part of territorial safety. No forced migration, no civil collapse, no internal distress. Collapse begins when these disappear simultaneously, which is what we are now seeing, unfortunately, okay? And this is exactly why they need you in the dark and broke. They need you to not understand anything that's going on. Repositioning is not going to be about rebellion or about, oh, I don't know, whatever people think that they could rebel from. That's not necessarily the mindset. It's instead about wisdom, tangible wealth, sovereign movement, trade-based income, jurisdiction intelligence, actually looking to see, okay, before I make a move, what am I going to pay in taxes? Being more forward thinking. We talk about this so much on this channel, on members only. Subscribe to members only if you're not subscribed already. Cross-border flexibility. You need all of these things. You need to own your business, own your skills. Be a resource and be resourceful. We were also talking about this previously on the last members only video, where it's like you cannot pick up a skill in 1 week. You can't pick up a skill in 4 weeks usually. A true skill like marketing, AI automation, technology, trading, a true skill takes years and years to hone in on. You have to say in your mind, I'm going to apply myself to this for the long haul. I said that in my business when I started it at 21 years old. I'm now 30. I said, I'm going to apply myself to this for at least 1 year, at least investing in my business, hundreds, thousands of dollars the first 5 years, and I still invest. There's never a season when you're not investing in your own learning, when you're not hiring a team, when you're not hiring mentors, a consultant to come in and take some of the work off of your back. I think this is the one mindset that most people do not have that stops them from exiting America. They don't understand business. They don't understand that you have to invest. You have to be ever willing to learn. You have to take ownership if you're going to be a CEO. You reap the rewards of it and you take ownership. You invest in the business relentlessly, mostly in marketing, mostly in operations, mostly in a team, because a lot of the HR stuff, a lot of the financier stuff can be controlled with AI and it's not very costly. But your marketing messaging, how you're going to disseminate that message to the masses, how you're going to book clients, how to install email automations, SMS, how to get people on your sales form, how to do all of these things, it's usually actually not something you're going to Google. It's very rare that you're just going to Google an automation setup and actually know how to implement it with your specific brand. This is where consulting and coaching comes in. Feel free to visit www.tiffygwrites.ai to learn more. I have resources, blogs on marketing for over 9 years. So both www.tiffygwrites.ai and then www.tiffygwrites.co. Because the reality is they do not need to kill you. They only need to confuse you, indebt you, digitize you, condition you, and then distract you. But scriptures already told you who you are. Psalm 16, Yahuwah is the portion of my inheritance, period. No caveats, no, I don't need an inheritance, no half inheritance. Yahuwah, the creator of the entire universe, is the portion of your inheritance. And this is another great one. Happy is that people whose Yah is Yahuwah, whose God is Yahuwah. Psalms 144. You were created to beg inside of a collapsing system, or that's what they want to make you think. That's what they want to make you feel. But instead, you were actually created by Yah to live outside of the system and to inherit your goodness outside of the system and truly be set apart. When you look at the word set apart, it literally means to be on the outside of a civilization or of a society. You out here somewhere else looking in at the collapsing system, that is your portion in 2026. That is what belongs to you in 2026. This has been our portion for the last 6 years, and I invite you to also be a part of that. You can do it, you got this, but you have to shift your mind. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video.